Warren P. back here on Finance for Firefighters. Wanted to talk today about net worth or your financial snapshot. So we look at net worth and hear the word, and we think of people like Bill Gates or Elon Musk or somebody famous and really, really wealthy. But the banks and folks that loan you money, they quantify your net worth and they look at it and they do it in a pretty simple way. So what is net worth? Well, net worth is basically how much you're weighed, how much value you have. So it's done by calculating two different things. The first thing is your assets. So assets are all the things that you own. So your home, your all the money in your bank accounts. If you have a brokerage account, the money in that, your deferred comp. If you have cars or vehicles that you paid off outright. Any precious jewelry or precious metals, things like that, all that stuff would be on your asset side. So that's all the positive stuff. That's stuff in the black. And then the other side of that are your liabilities, things that you owe money on. So liabilities would be, money you owe on your car, money you owe on your house. If you have any school loans, debt, credit card debt, any of those other kinds of things, those are basically your liabilities, right? So your net worth should be calculated really once a year, and it's kind of like a good snapshot of where you're at.
Here's a net worth calculator that I put together on one of these Excel spreadsheets. I like this because it keeps it simple. As things change, you can just update things as they change for you. Hopefully, all moving in the positive, where you're building home equity, or you're adding assets, or you're reducing the liabilities that you have, and you could just adjust this over time. Now, you don't need anything like this. You could use something as simple as a sheet of paper, a pencil, calculator, all that kind of stuff. But for me, I like having it organized. It's way easier to do it this way for me. And I can just make adjustments as things happen. So we talked before about what assets and liabilities are, right? Everything in the black is your asset, things that you own. Liabilities are things that you owe money on, right? So things you own versus things that you owe money on. So if we look at the different examples that we have here, I just put in some numbers. Let's say that this person has a couple different properties. The first property, they've got $300,000 in equity on it. Say they have a second property, they have $100,000 in equity on it. Their checking account current balance is $2,000. Savings account number 1, $2,000. Savings account number 2, $5,000. And let's say savings account number 3 is $20,000. Maybe that's their emergency fund. If we look at down here, VIBA or HSA, they got $10,000 in that. And then in their 457, they've got $300,000 balance. So the total amount of assets with all these things added up is $739,000 in assets. Now, if we look at the liability side, let's say that they have a mortgage of $300,000 on that house, right? They've got $300,000 in equity, but they've got a mortgage of $300,000. So the total property value is $600,000. Property number 2, they've got $200,000 in on a mortgage, and they've got $100,000 in equity in the home. Credit card, let's say they've got a couple of those. The first one they've got $1,500 on. The other one they owe $2,000 on. Let's say they have student loans from college or their spouse's college, something. $40,000 there. Auto number 1, they've got $5,000 on there, and then the second auto loan, maybe they got $20,000 on that. For a total amount of liabilities of $568,000. So real simple, like we said before, all your assets and your liabilities, and what's the difference of those? So if they have 739 in thousand in assets, and then they owe 568,500, the net worth calculator just takes the difference of these two things, right? And as we move forward, if we wanted to say we came back and visited this a couple years later, and let's say they had an additional $100,000 in their 457, I would just add it into here. Right there. And it automatically added $100,000 here, added $100,000 here, right? Same thing if I move forward and say, hey, where are they at based on their age? We'll work through another example of exactly how to go through this. But let's say that their age went up by 2 years and they got an extra couple hundred or extra 100,000 or 457. Put that in there. Okay, their target of net worth kind of went up a little bit too, right? So by doing all this stuff, you can kind of see where they're at on this. Let's take that back and let's say that they've been pretty aggressive and they, build up 100,000 in this account over a couple of years, and they paid off some of the mortgages or they remove some of this credit card debt, right? We delete some of these things. It's going to automatically adjust their net worth accordingly, right? Let's say that they paid off the vehicles, right? Just by doing all these little things here and there, their net worth goes up because their liabilities reduce and their assets stay the same or increase. now at what your net worth target should be. So there's a little formula down here that explains exactly what your net worth, or at least a target for you, should be based on your age and your annual income. So if you take your age and you subtract 25, you get a certain number. You multiply that by your annual income divided by 5. So here I've already got a formula in there that quantifies it to come up with the, and here it has the formula basically right here doing it, but you could write all this stuff out on a sheet of paper. So the example we have here for a 40-year-old that makes $90,000 in annual income, their target net worth at that time should be $270,000. So if they're not there, like this fictional person, for example, they'd want to be doing things to either reduce the debt or bring their assets up through overtime or additional income or reducing some budgetary expenses to be able to increase the net worth. So we looked at another example at how modifying, adding things to your assets or reducing things for your liability will affect your net worth. But if we look over here at the net worth target, this is going to be pretty steady moving forward. So let's run out a couple different things. Let's say that this person, we look at this 5 years later, they turn 45. Okay, based on their annual income, they should have a net worth target of 360. But let's say that they promoted to captain or something and they're making more now. So let's say that they're making $120,000. Add that in there. Well, now their net worth shot up. So their goals should be continuously changing, right? So if we, in some of our later episodes, we'll dive into some more strategy and how to work on some of these things. But as you're moving forward and you have some simple things like this set up and you review them at least once a year, you'll be able to look at exactly where you should be based on a simple formula, and then where you actually are based on your income level. So hopefully this person from the age of 40 to 45, as they went up and made an additional $30,000 with education incentives or promotions or whatever we have as time has moved forward, the assumption is that as you age, you're going to be making more money. And as you age, you should also be able to acquire and build assets so that at some point in the near future, when you have either no income or you have a fixed income, you have other means to draw from. So you're not in a spot where you're basically broke and you're having to go back and get a job when you're in your 70s or 80s or something like that.
If your net worth is low or it's negative, you'll have a much more difficult time weathering those financial storms like we were talking about, right? Down economies, less tax money in. Less tax money means that the city's in less stable financial shape, and likelihood of us getting a raise is very, very low. And then worst case scenario, maybe you even have to take a pay cut. And can you weather that, right? If you have a very stable net worth and you're in a positive, you can weather those storms. You typically have more assets to draw from in those darker times. And you're trying to increase your net worth. Look at your things that you owe money on. Take the highest interest rate, one that you owe the highest interest rate on, pay that one down first. Once that's done, go to the next one, pay that one down. And then eventually get to a spot where all the debt is now washed off and now all you have is assets. There's a lot of things you can do to tweak your side to increase your net worth by improving your assets and raising your assets and reducing your liabilities. Quick one today, just a short little snippet on this stuff. Same goal for this is me to just pass on what I've learned and hopefully have some of these things that make it a little easier for you on your end. As always, if you guys have any questions, just leave a comment in the section there. If you like what you're hearing, give me a thumbs up. And if you know me personally, then just reach out and let me know if you have any feedback or anything you want to hear more about. I'll talk to you.